I'm Vonnie Quinn along with Guy Johnson in London. This is Bloomberg Markets. The coronavirus pandemic is putting a spotlight on mobile payments as consumers adhere to social distancing guidelines. For more now, for One Perspective, we're joined on the phone by Jason Gardner, CEO of Marqeta, a unicorn that's backing from Goldman Sachs and Iconic, among others, and handles payment infrastructure for companies including DoorDash, Instacart, Square, and also Cabbage. Also with us is our Wall Street correspondent, Shonali Basak. So, Shonali, I'm going to hand it over to you for the first question.
Thank you so much, Vonnie. Jason, thank you for joining us. You have quite the view into the shared economy right now at a time when groceries and deliveries are surging. What types of volume increases are you seeing among your clients?
Shonali, thank you for having me. It's certainly an interesting time in fintech. We've seen in about the first week, we saw about a 30 to 40% increase in on-demand delivery. And the past week, we've seen an 82% increase in on-demand delivery. It's been interesting times.
So if you're seeing an 80% increase, are those volumes sustainable, or is this completely just a point-in-time issue related to coronavirus?
I believe behaviors are incredibly hard to change in either direction. Today, you'll find senior citizens making their weekly purchases on Instacart, including my 83-year-old mother-in-law who had never used Instacart before. You may have started using Instacart for safety reasons, but once you've experienced the convenience, it's hard to go back. On-demand delivery has changed the way America shops, and I believe it's here to stay.
Jason, Guy in London, look, we're all trying to understand how the virus is spreading. Can you tell from your data, from the purchases that are being made, how quickly it's spreading, to which areas it's spreading, and ultimately what effect it is having once people get locked down?
Well, we have an interesting view. So where we see transactions is very much a leading indicator, and we've seen a 10x increase in contactless. Contactless can be online. It can be through Apple Pay, Android Pay, Samsung Pay. It can be via contactless cards. It's well known that cash does carry the virus up to 24 hours, and there has always been this feeling that cash is dirty. And now we're seeing where it's actually safer to do contactless transactions, and I think primarily because people are not traveling and working from home, and obviously in shelter in place, we're seeing a lot more transactions online. And then if they are going to the stores, they're using contactless and phone because that's been certainly recommended. We're not seeing where in certain areas, per se, where transactions are increasing through the effects of the coronavirus. However, we do see a significant increase in both online transactions and contactless.
Jason, can you give us any more insight into why Cabbage, for example, had to cut off lending to small businesses unannounced, basically? Small businesses found themselves in trouble yesterday when Cabbage cut off their payments and told our Zeke Fox and Jenny Serene. How does something like that happen?
I don't have a good view onto Cabbage's decision to hold back loans. I suspect what's going on in the lending industry is obviously small and medium businesses have been massively impacted by the coronavirus and this instant recession we've seen. The last 3 weeks have been incredibly difficult for small business. And certainly the world changed significantly 3 weeks ago. And I think we're seeing the impact of that. Companies are making, the best, most informed decisions they can to keep their business going, keep, small, medium business intact. We're seeing also where the government has implementing the Stimulus Act, and we're seeing money hopefully begin to flow soon to small, medium businesses to keep them afloat. We're certainly seeing the impact here in Oakland. A number of restaurants have closed up shop. Marqeta itself has implemented Oaklanders Supporting Oaklanders initiative, where we've raised $50,000 thus far to fund local restaurants to service the most needy, working with a number of nonprofits to make sure that people have food.
So, Jason, want to go back to winners and losers here in the industry for a second here, because you said cash is dirty. And so if people are ditching physical cash and if people are ditching contact credit cards, how does that impact the likes of Google and Apple Pay?
So we're seeing a massive increase already. I mentioned we've seen a 10x increase in contactless. So cards are also contactless. You can today, tap a in-store a device to initiate a transaction, or you can insert them if you like. And we've already seen a precipitous fall of the use of cash, primarily here in the U.S., Europe, Australia, places where cards are used more. And then certainly we see within Asia where a lot of transactions are initiated via phone, QR code or other ways. Cash is still predominantly king, but we're seeing that significantly decline. And I believe that because of the coronavirus, people are going to move more to contactless. And we've already seen where in the coming years we're going to see card or contactless increase by 30% year over year within Asia. We're already seeing cards increase 5% year over year in the U.S. and 7% year over year in Europe. I believe that's going to actually increase now based on what we're experiencing today.
What other trends do you see accelerating as a result of this, Jason? The trend towards the cashless society has been happening for a while. Is there anything else that's happening as a result of us all being locked down and changing our spending habits that you see accelerating within the industry, even if it's kind of in the weeds in terms of the payment space?
What's going to happen is, as we've seen in other recession types, and obviously we don't know whether this is going to be a V-type recession, which is a strong sort of boomerang effect of the economy coming back, or there's going to be a U-type recession where it might be more sustained. What we're going to see is a lot more investments into companies that are looking to build new card products and service new constituencies, and certainly come up with a number of new business ideas. This is a time where we see a lot of entrepreneurs begin to think about new business ideas and bring those businesses to market. And as we've seen over the last few years, certainly within Europe, the idea of Monzo or Revolut, here in the U.S., Cash App, Chime, N26, almost a wholesale dismantling of financial services, at least the legacy financial services. I think we're going to see more of that. And what's going to come out of this is a number of new types of business models to service new constituencies in what many of us are experiencing, potentially a new type of world where, online, contactless, mobile will become the predominant player versus cash within a number of industries.
Jason, real quick, also, you have a very interesting view of Silicon Valley at this point in time. We're seeing venture funding potentially dry up significantly. What are you seeing in terms of the ability to maybe raise new capital, or those around you raising more capital?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting times. A lot of VCs are looking at their current portfolios. What do these companies need to do to make sure that they have enough cash to get out of the current situation? So they're definitely pulling back. And we've seen this before. VCs typically, when we're seeing downtrends within the economy, will begin to pull back. And what's been interesting is VCs typically follow the public market. So if we see a precipitous fall in the public markets in regards to stock prices,
yes,
VCs follow after that. But it usually takes time. Now it's happening almost instantaneously. So pencils are being put down around term sheets. VCs are focused on their portfolios. So we're definitely going to see funding drying up for, I think, earlier stage companies, maybe seed to Series B versus Series C or later, where we're seeing sustainable growth around their business models.
Jason, thank you for joining us today. That is Jason Gardner, Marqeta CEO, and our thanks as well to Bloomberg's Shonali Basak.